Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the last in our series of Tuesday early evening conversations. Before we begin, I just want to again do what we've been doing this year, and we should have been doing for a lot longer, and that is acknowledging that the island where we're situated here on the island of Manhattan is part of the ancestral and unceded territories of the Lenape people, the original stewards of this land. We honor the Lenape people, their past, present, and future, and recognize their ongoing displacement and the struggles of indigenous communities that continue to face the sad results of centuries of colonization. We commit to respecting and learning from the enduring presence and wisdom of indigenous peoples in this region and beyond, and we support efforts towards decolonization and indigenous sovereignty. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our two conversants for this evening. First, my friend and former SVA grad department chair, David Levi Strauss. He's an American art and cultural critic, essayist, poet, and educator. Born in Junction City, Kansas in 1953, he's known for his writings on art, photography, and politics. He's authored several books, including Between the Eyes, Essays on Photography and Politics, From Hand to Hand, The Art of the Manual, and Words Not Spent Today by Smaller Images Tomorrow. David was a Guggenheim Fellow in 2003 and 2004 and received the Infinity Award for writing from the International Center of Photography in 2007. He previously served as chair of the MFA program in art criticism and writing here at SVA, and a remarkable guy who's been writing a great column in the Brooklyn Rail for the last year or so called Dispatches. If you haven't read it, you can find it, catch up. And we're extraordinarily pleased that Michael invited to speak with him Michael Taussig, an Australian anthropologist and professor at Columbia University. Born in Sydney, Australia in 1940. He is recognized for his provocative ethnographic studies and unconventional academic style. Professor Taussig initially studied medicine at the University of Sydney before entering and earning a PhD in anthropology at the London School of Economics. His work often engages with Marx's ideas of commodity fetishism, particularly through the lens of Walter Benjamin. He has published numerous books, including The Devil and Commodity Fetishism, Shamanism, Colonialism, and the Wild Man, and Mimesis and Alterity. Taussig was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship in 1998 and a Berlin Prize in 2007. So thank you both for joining us this evening. David, take it away.
Okay. Thanks for coming. So the day after the assassination attempt on Trump in Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024. Amazingly, it was only 1 year ago. Seems like 10. The editor of the opinion pages of the New York Times contacted me and asked me to write about the iconic image of Trump after the shooting. I wrote a piece that night and sent it to her, and she accepted it and then called back a little while later and said that the editorial board had met and decided that the window had closed, that the timing for the piece was not going to work, and they're not going to publish it after all. I've been a contributing editor to the Brooklyn Rail for a long time, and I went to them, and they published it right away, and then I started writing my dispatches from the conventions. I went for both the Republican and the Democratic conventions. And they published those online as I wrote them over a year's time at the rate of about 1 to 3 every day. I mean, not every day, every week. You can find all 77 of them now at the Rail at brooklynrail.org. I'm not a journalist, but these pieces are kind of hybrid. I'm not reporting on events, but I'm responding to them as a writer in real time. For a writer who's focused on politics and public images and belief, what's going on now is irresistible. A lot of the dispatches have also been about the role of technology and the technocrats in the within the Trump phenomenon, and the effects of the AI revolution. I've been thinking lately a lot about the French cultural theorist and aesthetic philosopher Paul Virilio, who is best known for writing about the social effects of technology and speed, and who often wrote timely pieces in newspapers and magazines. Virilio's approach has always been a model for me. I think theorists should be ranked according to their prescience, and Virilio's near the top in this Vedic order. He predicted the Gulf War, he predicted 9/11, he predicted the big data surveillance state, and a lot of other things. So I put together this short introduction to the dispatches to begin things, and just to get some images into people's minds, if you don't mind. This first image is the one I responded to for the Times. It was taken by Evan Vucci for the Associated Press. Vucci was one of the main photographers at the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. I think this is the most iconic image from that day. Everything about it works. Unfortunately, it got Donald Trump elected president of the United States. This was the image that caused Elon Musk to throw all of his support behind Trump and a lot of money, and arguably win the election for Trump. In the piece I wrote for the Times, I argue that Trump's first impulse after the bullet or something hit his ear, after clutching his ear and ducking for cover, was to make an image, to stand up, pump his fist in the air, and exhort the crowd to fight, fight, fight. His instinct for making images is preternatural and persistent. It's come through in his mugshot and many other instances throughout his life. He always knows where the camera is. His life has been spent making images of himself for public consumption. At the end of the Times piece, I say, quote, "For those who see Trump in messianic terms, he's now been baptized in blood and in the image. In retrospect, it's very clear that as soon as this image was published, the election was effectively over." For some reason, this photograph by Doug Mills of the New York Times, along with others he took that day, won the Pulitzer Prize. I don't understand why. I don't think it's nearly as good as the Vucci shot. Mills also took this image that appears to capture a bullet or some other object whizzing past Donald Trump's head. Mills was shooting with a shutter speed of 1/8,000th of a second on his Sony A1 camera, making this image possible. Crooks fired 8 rounds, killing 1 person and injuring 6 others. The FBI at that time had doubts about whether it was a bullet or shrapnel or some other kind of debris that hit Trump's ear. The type of bullet that Thomas Crooks fired from his AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle was traveling at 3,200 feet per second and tends to tumble end over end and break apart after hitting any solid object like a metal stanchion. It's why these rifles are not very good for hunting game, although some people still do it, because the bullets traveling at such a high speed tend to explode inside the target and make a mess of the meat. This is also why they're so devastating in school shootings of children. There was no medical report of Trump's injury, and the only physician who's spoken of the wound from personal experience has been U.S. Representative Ronnie Jackson, Republican of Texas. Not exactly an unimpeachable source. After making the image, Trump insisted on being treated only by Ronnie Jackson. There was no medical report of Trump's injury, and the only physician, so it was Jackson who gave Trump his official physical in 2018, and then extolled Trump's incredibly good genes and said if he had a healthier diet over the last 20 years, he might live to be 200. After the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, Jackson claimed that his nephew, who was sitting near Trump, was also injured in the shooting and that a bullet grazed his neck. Again, that doesn't sound like an AR-15 bullet. But the wounding of Trump's ear wasn't about medical records or ballistics. It was about belief. After the failed assassination attempt, Steve Bannon announced that, quote, Trump wears the armor of God. This is Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in April 2011, when Obama completely humiliated him. This is the moment when Trump decided to run for president. In the Gospels, it is reported that Jesus' last recorded miracle prior to his resurrection was the healing of the right ear of Malchus, the servant of the Jewish high priest Caiaphas, who was trying to arrest Jesus. When Malchus tried to take Jesus into custody, Simon Peter drew his sword and cut off Malchus's right ear to prevent the arrest. But Jesus stepped in and said to Peter, "Put up thy sword unto the sheath. The cup which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink it?" John 18, 10-11. There are a number of 16th century paintings of this event. In the Old Testament, blood on the right ear serves as a visible mark of consecration, signifying that the person is dedicated to God's service and has been set apart for a specific purpose. In Leviticus 8, blood is applied to the right ear of Aaron and his sons, consecrating them. The right ear was the ear that heard the words of God. The act represents a physical and spiritual transformation, preparing the individual for their sacred role. The person so marked is set apart as a mediator between God and the people. The death of Ethel Kennedy last fall at age 96 marked the end of an era in American politics. When her husband Bobby ran for president and was assassinated in 1968, a certain kind of idealism in American politics died with him. Bobby's antagonist from that period, Roy Cohn, trained Donald Trump to be the antithesis of that idealism. And tragically, one of Ethel Kennedy's last memories was of her grandson, Bobby Kennedy Jr., capitulating and bowing down to that new master of anti-idealism and cynicism, Donald Trump. When the mugshot came out in August 2023, I wrote about it for Hyperallergic under the title Portrait of a Frightened Boy Man. E. Jean Carroll wrote an extraordinary book called Hunter, The Strange and Savage Life of Hunter S. Thompson in 1993. And the New York Times Review said at the time, E. Jean Carroll is the female answer to Hunter Thompson. Quite an endorsement. Carroll sued Donald Trump for defamation and battery in 2023, and a New York jury found Trump liable for defamation and sexual abuse and awarded her $5 million in damages. And in 2024, another jury found Trump liable for defamation again after the first verdict and awarded her an additional $83.3 million. Trump and his lawyers have been appealing the judgment ever since. Peter Thiel was the co-founder of PayPal, Palantir Technologies, and Founders Fund, and was the first outside investor in Facebook. Fortune gives his current net worth at just under $20 billion. Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford, where René Girard's mimetic theory on mimetic desire and the scapegoat had a big influence on him.
Oy.
There was a very strange debate between Peter Thiel and David Graeber, sponsored by the Baffler and held in the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen's Library on 44th Street and Fifth Avenue on September 19th, 2014. It was called Where Did the Future Go? This was 2 years after I had David speak in my series at SVA Theater on 23rd Street on January 19th, 2012, drawing on the same material. You can find both of these events easily online. This is on a bus in the East Village. This is the opposite of what I believe. This is Hannah Arendt. What really makes it possible for a totalitarian or any other kind of dictatorship to rule is that the people are not informed. If everyone always lies to you, the consequence is not that you believe the lies, but that no one believes anything at all anymore. The levels of misinformation and disinformation have risen exponentially over the past year and has caused a fundamental crisis in belief. And all the sources of information are bifurcated. If you voted for Trump, you are invariably watching and listening to completely different platforms than people who didn't vote for Trump. And T.J. Clark, in the introduction to his new book, Those Passions on Art and Politics, wrote, quote, "Politics came to play the role that religion had played previously." This is also becoming more and more evident. And in both politics and religion, image and belief play prominent roles. This is boxer Amanda Serrano wearing a bulletproof vest before her fight with Katie Taylor on November 15th, 2024 in Arlington, Texas. It was a magnificent fight. It was on the undercard of a ridiculous spectacle between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And it ended in a controversial judge's decision in favor of Taylor. 74 million people saw that fight. Serrano and Taylor fought their third fight 2 weeks ago on July 11th at Madison Square Garden, with Taylor winning another controversial decision. This is from Fritz Lang's 1943 film Hangmen Also Die, based on a story by Bertolt Brecht and Lang, which is based loosely on the 1942 assassination of Reinhard Heydrich, number 2 man in the SS and mastermind of the Holocaust, known as the Hangman of Europe. There's just an awful lot of retrospective aesthetic performance going on in Magaland. This is Elon Musk taking the stage with Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, 3 months after the attempted assassination there. And this is Musk appearing in video to support the neo-Nazi AfD party in Germany on January 25th, 2025, encouraging them to, quote, to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything. He also said Germans have had, quote, too much of a focus on past guilt. This came 2 days before Germany commemorated the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. These posters have been everywhere. They were made by a Washington, D.C. street artist who goes by the name of Absurdly Well. A Green Beret blew up a Tesla Cybertruck and shot himself in front of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. He said the country was headed toward collapse, And he did this because, quote, Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. This is Elon Musk's 4-year-old son, Lil X, in the Oval Office. And I took this photograph in Philadelphia during the Democratic National Convention, just after the Republican National Convention in 2016, where Trump won the presidential nomination. Ready for a rough rescue.
Brilliant.
Republicans commissioned a portrait of Trump painted in the, quote, classical realist style, and unveiled it in the Colorado State Capitol in 2019. Last March, Trump saw the painting and hated it, writing on Truth Social, "Nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves, but the one in Colorado in the state capitol was purposely distorted to a level that even I, perhaps, have never seen before. And that he would much prefer not having a picture than having this one. So the portrait was removed. Problem solved." A friend of mine sent me this recently from a Prague newsstand. Remember Matt Gaetz? Mussolini is always right. This is George Washington from the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden in 1939. This photograph was taken November 19th, 2024, exactly 161 years after the Gettysburg Address. One of the recurring themes of the dispatches has been the role of the technocratic oligarchs in the Trump phenomena and the spasms of disruption that are about to come with the rise of artificial intelligence. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, that controls 90% of the market for the chips needed for AI systems, met with Trump in the White House this month and convinced Trump to let him sell chips to China. At that time, Wang said, "AI is the greatest technology equalizer we've ever seen. It lifts the people who don't understand the technology. We'll see. What will be the business model for this new industry?" Our fearless leader, Stephen Miller, Zelensky and Trump, the big bruise, the golden age.
Oh, so bad.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, aka Ice Barbie, at Secot Prison on March 26, 2025, wearing a $50,000 watch.
Oh.
This is Paul Clay's Angelus Novus from 1920. Walter Benjamin purchased this work in 1921, and when he died, it went from George Bataille, 1933, to Theodor Adorno, to Gershom Scholem, and finally to the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. A melancholy view of historical process as an unceasing cycle of despair. This is Benjamin from Theses on the Philosophy of History. A clay painting named Angelus Novus shows an angel looking as though he is about to move away from something he is fixedly contemplating. His eyes are staring, his mouth is open, his wings are spread. This is how one pictures the angel of history. Her face is turned toward the past. His face is turned toward the past. Where we perceive a chain of events, he sees one single catastrophe, which keeps piling wreckage upon wreckage and hurls it in front of his feet. The angel would like to stay, awaken the dead, and make whole what has been smashed. But a storm is blowing from paradise. It has got caught in his wings with such violence that the angel can no longer close them. The storm irresistibly propels him into the future, to which his back is turned, while the pile of debris before him grows skyward. This storm is what we call progress. This is the poet Amiri Baraka in Bulworth from 1998, directed by Warren Beatty, who plays California Senator J. Billington Bulworth. To be a spirit, you have to have a song. With the Epstein files looming, it appears now that Trump may eventually be taken down by the people who put him in power. The seed of apostasy among his base has taken root because of the Epstein matter. A part of the MAGA movement had previously believed that God anointed Trump to bring the pedophiles and all the other leftist evildoers to justice. And God spared him in the assassination attempt 1 year ago so that he could lead them to victory over these forces of evil. Some of those people are now beginning to wonder if they chose a false Messiah. Lately, I've been thinking that this is the way it probably has to happen. That the people who believed in Trump and put him in power need a way to go on after Trump without taking on the weight of devastating shame and grief. They need an off-ramp, some way of saving face in the face of so much carnage, a saving grace. Trump has to be taken down by his own followers, but tragically it may be too late. Thank you.
Great. That's very, very powerful, Levi. I had some sort of question earlier on about the dispatches are all text, except they have one image. And today we saw a mix of not text, but verbal or oral text, you might say, and images, as if the mode had completely changed. Something that struck me very much, and it's sort of banal to say, is how strong the images appear when you get a chance to look at them in a group, number one, and magnified, and then you hear this verbal wave coming out from the person who put them together. I don't know what you call this type of art or presentation. I used to like the idea of slideshow with a commentator as opposed to a movie. It's very like a movie, but it's not quite the same because there's a interruption all the time. The thing that, of course, knocks me out, is the drama that each picture attains. You could call it a life of its own, but it's more than that. It's a life of our own, or a life of history's own, something like that. That's what seems to me to be so powerful and accomplished in today's presentation. I had a passing thought about the bleeding ear and the religious stuff. It seemed so powerful at the time, and yet now it seems like a bleep. It's like disappeared. It's like a comet that came out of nowhere and was terrifying, and then what? I don't understand that powerful appearance and powerful, well, I'm going to say disappearance, but that's a minor thought. to think about what I've been saying. So I'd like to know how you feel about the dispatches. You've been up to number 77 now, and you gave this explanation, which I'd forgotten, that sort of started, the seed that started it was a rejection from the New York Times about that photograph. Have you got any ideas about why it was rejected?
I think
what aesthetic grounds and political grounds?
I think it was just as they said. I mean, between the time that the editor called me, and I could have done it in hours. She said, no, tomorrow morning is fine. So I took the night to do it. But by that time, there was so much had been written and published, which to me indicates a major feature of this time that we're in. And again, thinking of Virilio, it's all about speed and acceleration. Things are speeding up at a rate that I've never seen before, and that affects the way images work. But by the time, so in those few hours, by the time the editorial board met, it was already, it was too late. I mean, you're always, I mean, in writing these dispatches, you're always too late. I haven't felt the need to respond daily to everything that happens. And there are people who do that very well, Heather Cox Richardson, the historian, and Timothy Snyder and others. So I let things soak a little bit before I respond to them. But I'm always conscious of this, you know, and one of the movements that is part of the MAGA movement is the accelerationist ideology. Keep speeding everything up to a rate where it's almost impossible to respond in time.
That was certainly very obvious in the first week of his assumption of, formal assumption of power, when the phrase came, I think, from Bannon, flood the zone. And it was like nobody could keep their balance because everybody was teetering, wondering what's happening, what's next. So that's a very graphic example of the speed you're talking about.
Yeah. By the time you have a response to it, it's something else is coming and overcoming that. So, I mean, the images to me are a big part of the dispatches. But there were more of them initially, and then I came into this form where it's just one image. But they're all what Hito Steyerl called poor images. I mean, I'm photographing off the screens, basically. They're my cell phone off of the screens, either the computer or a TV screen. They're very low-level images. But again, the one way to, I think, occasionally break the spell is to slow it down. And that's what images can do, still images can do. You know, you slow them down and also put them in an arrangement in retrospect so that you can see them slowly, differently.
I was thinking there are probably people in the audience who'll ask a little later who are experts on slow motion. I'd like to hear thoughts on that. One thing I'd like to know a bit about is the ordinary work of getting these dispatches done. I mean, how much time do you spend, would you say, of your working hours researching, preparing, and you talk about taking these photographs of screenshots and stuff like that. I'm just wondering how much work goes into that?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit of time. I mean, I'm fascinated by what's happening as a student of public images and of image and belief. I can't stay away from it. I'm compelled by it
Can anyone in this room not watch them?
I mean, we were talking before about people's response to the, because I send these things out to a lot of people and get a lot of response. And I was surprised initially by the number of people that I know saying, yeah, I can't, I can't do it. I can't read those all the time. I have to do a batch of them and then wait a while. And so people have this totally understandable response of aversion and toxicity. And apparently, I've been told I have a high tolerance for that, which allows me to go through. I watch Fox News. I watch all these things because I feel like I need to see it. I need to.
You need to see what?
What they're what they're doing. How they're using the images and. I have, the people in my family that I talk to who are Trump supporters and MAGA devotees, and it became very clear early on that, like I say, we were looking at two completely different things, and I would hear things that they were saying and knew that it came directly from Fox. Fox News is, it's so much a part of this and so powerful. Not to mention the manosphere and all of that with podcasts and everything going on online. I mean, you can't possibly keep up with all of it, but I try to do that.
When I look at the images, I think of the image, I don't think of the political apparatus behind them, e.g. Fox News, e.g. I don't know. But I mean, that's obvious, such an obvious thing. I'm so glad you mentioned it, that the images are in a sense tailored.
Yeah.
So it's a study of our image, our politically produced image world.
Yeah, and it's changed radically even in the last year.
What do you mean?
Again, it has to do with acceleration, speed, and it's moved more and more toward just bald mendacity. As Trump taught us early on, you can get away with a lot if you just lie repeatedly and repeat it over and over again. I mean, he's a master. He got half the country to believe these things, and images were certainly a part of that. And it's difficult to see how we're going to get out of it now. I'm not, this thing at the end about his followers bringing him down, that's a hopeful note. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but I know that the people that I'm talking to that are Trump supporters are very disturbed by the Epstein case, and Trump's repudiation of them and calling them stupid and is not going over well. But whether it will ever rise to an actual political, Trump's not going to be around forever. I'm not so worried about Trump. I'm worried about what he has marshaled, this movement, which is going to be with us for a very long time.
Right. I wanted to ask you about previous dispatches that you made. You've been to several presidential conventions, Democratic and Republican, and it seemed like an oddball thing for you to do. To me, now I see dispatches Mark II, and I know you once went with a photographer friend.
That's how it started.
Could you talk a bit about how the dispatches have changed from the times that you, as a sort of novice, were writing dispatches about presidential conventions, and now?
Yeah, that started with an artist, a media artist named John Winnett, who had been going to the conventions. I mean, I've been going to them for 30 years, no, 25 years. And he'd been going for longer than that. And he figured the credentials thing out. So he always could get good credentials. And that's
like what?
Like in the conventions
Teacher
run
at
on
the SVA.
No. Various levels of credentials will get you in anywhere. And people they see the credential, you're okay. And it's like being invisible. It's great. I loved it. I loved being there. And also for me, it was being in the conventions was like being inside the machine for making images.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all about making images. Everybody's there to be photographed. Everybody's photographing. It's like this orgy of representation, weird social representation.
The cell phone was present from the first convention you went to?
No.
So they were real cameras?
Yeah, real cameras. Analog cameras. I mean, they're still cameras, but so that's how it started. And then.
And did you go to the first convention with the intention of writing a dispatch, or did that occur after it finished?
No, I went there with John to write. You know, he was the photographer, I was the writer, and we put all these things up online in real time, and as a media project. So they were all published, and they were published in newspapers and magazines too. But yeah, I was always writing, and that's how I didn't know I could write like that under deadline. I mean, going in the convention, you'd go to the convention all day, you come back at night, and you have a couple hours to do it, and it had to be done then and put up then.
Why? Why couldn't you wait a week or 2 weeks or a month?
It was just the conceit of our project, the project that we were engaged in. And so I got this momentum going of responding quickly. And I mean, I would go back and respond at length more as well, but writing dispatches, which I think in the beginning, I mean, I always thought of, you called them bulletins at one point. I thought that was, but I thought of, you know, Michael Hare writing dispatches from Vietnam, where they're under the press of time.
No, he says in that book that he had all the time in the world, and that was what was great, working for Esquire magazine as opposed to the other journalists.
Well, then I misread. The whole thing's a mistake.
Yeah. Well, that's what I remember.
No, I'm sure you're right. But the idea of you know, ready, you know, do it then. And I never thought I could write like that. But I kind of grew fond of this form, and now these things, I mean, they grow in a certain way. It's always the same, and at a certain point, there'll be an accumulation of material, and then I'll see the import, the kernel inside of it, and as soon as I've got that, then the whole thing comes together. And it comes together pretty fast. I mean, some of these have been, they're usually like 1,500 words. I mean, people say that 800 words is sort of the sweet spot for Substack or some online newsletter or something, but mine are a little longer than that. And when I go back and read them from the beginning, they have a continuity. Different themes come out, and then they go through, and I follow that theme every time the theme comes up. You know, like when the technocrats came in, when Elon Musk came in, and suddenly all of Silicon Valley turned. And
Incidentally, that picture of Peter Thiel, is that a meme or a real photograph?
no, that's a real photograph. That's a real photograph. An
It's one of
interview
the
that he
ugliest
did.
human faces I could imagine.
It's very strange. When I
Yeah.
saw that interview, I couldn't believe that he let that go out, because obviously he was doing something to his face. You know, he's into life extension. That's one of their big things. And who knows what kind of injections or, you know, what they're eating. But
Going back to speed and this 800-word limit, which you've on occasions doubled, we hear a lot about American youth having a short attention span because of cell phones and because of the speed up of American life, and America's just a shithole anyway, so nobody can focus on anything. What do you think? Why do you think 800 and not 8,000 or 2,800?
well, there are different forms for different purposes, and you know, what you can read. I mean, what people will read on their phone is limited in size, and it's definitely, you know, journalists talk about the long form being threatened, that it's very difficult to find outlets for that long form. But you know, as I say, I don't consider myself a journalist. I was never trained as a journalist.
What do you think is different to your work? What differentiates it from journalism?
That's a good question. I mean, a journalist, the forms are different. The form, you know, I'm an essayist, and when I switched from poetry to essay, you know, I mean, I've said that the essay form to me was like finding gold, because
What was what?
finding gold. I mean, because I could do anything I wanted in the essay form. It was so open that I could tell stories, I could include poetry, I could do anything in there. Political content. So I think of these as small essays.
You just mentioned that you switched from poetry to the essay, and I knew you were a very keen student of poetry when you were driving a taxi in San Francisco, and you're friendly with Robert Duncan. I didn't know you were actually writing poetry.
Oh yeah, my first book was a book of poetry.
God.
Yeah. I wrote a lot of poetry, a lot of bad poetry.
Tell us a bit about that book.
It's called Maneuvers, and I mean, it's a reflection of the poetry scene and movements in movements in San Francisco at that time. I mean, it was the poetry wars were going on. It was life and death, and this is in the 80s, and I was driving a cab at night for money. But yeah, the essay it made sense to me, the move.
Did you ever read, you must have, Adorno on the essay?
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember anything about that, or did it have an effect on you? Or?
I think it did at the time, but I don't recall what. I really turned against Adorno at some point. So
I remember.
I tried to eliminate all that from my memory. But
I was thinking he wrote it perhaps as an academic, and academics weren't, especially in Germany, weren't meant to write essays. They wrote articles or books. Yeah, but
Another thing that I should say about the form of the dispatches is that they're not edited. There's no editing, and that's what makes it not journalism too. Nobody touches them. So a journalist, you write a draft and then it goes through this incredible process. And I have done that a few times, but these are not that.
But I was thinking another difference is that the dispatches are very inquisitive and interpretive, whereas you wouldn't find that in a journalist's piece. The journalist tells you the facts like they are, right?
Yeah. The journalistic ethic is something that I pay no attention to. I would be arrested.
Sorry?
I'd be arrested.
You were very interested, like most of the people here, in Occupy Wall Street. 2011, was it? And I know you're interested in the notion of a library, and you've been always interested in libraries, and you've done artwork on libraries and so forth, and you have a rather stupendous, amazing library of your own upstate New York. I wonder how would Wall Street...
I also built a library here in this building on the...
That's true too.
6th floor.
Tell us, what sort of relationships come to mind about libraries and dispatches?
Wow.
It's a bit of a stretch, the question, but...
Yeah.
It must tickle the same sort of nerve cells in your personality.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's an archival part of it. There's a in one of our conversations, you talked about montage and the idea of montage and mixing things together from different sources. The library has always been that to me. That I think it's a very resilient technology. People say that it's going away. I don't think it'll ever go away because it's so good at what it does. But you can choose from one thing and another and put it together in a form that makes other things happen in juxtapositions. So it is a kind of montage.
I remember being intrigued, maybe even bowled over, when you once mentioned to me years and years ago the term bibliomancy. That, like geomancy or whatever, exmancy, there's a sort of magical payoff. You go to the library, you don't know, you're maybe stuck with writing something, and you pull out the first book, and then you open it up, and there it is, the answer. Sort of
I depend on it still.
Uh-huh.
I believe in it. It's always worked for me, and I don't know what I'd do without it.
Serious?
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a lot of things to choose from to do that, but...
Yeah, what guides you as you're walking up and down? I don't know how the books are categorized or cataloged, but from walking from A to B or C, or the fat books and the thin books.
My library is grouped together in areas of affinity and attraction, and things that I'm going to write about. So,
You must have read many times Walter Benjamin's Unpacking My Library.
Yeah.
It's the first essay that Hannah Arendt put in Illuminations. And he ends the essay, now that is an essay, and he goes through this, and he goes through that, and he goes through the other thing, and then he ends more or less saying, I must go now, and he disappears into his books. That sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So the books to you, or to me, a lot of people here, are fellow travelers, yeah, companions.
Yeah, absolutely.
With an occasional magical twitch.
I mean, and then we have Dr. Google, that is, I mean, I'm amazed that they let that continue to go on. I don't.
Which one?
Dr. Google. I mean, the search. I've always thought that we live in the golden age of search, and that they're going to cut it down at some point, stop it, but they haven't yet, and it's magnificent. I mean, to have in this space right here what you can get to with a simple search. And we were talking on the way here about AI, everybody's using AI on Google, and I find it very useful and very dependable. I don't get hallucinations, I don't get lies for the most part. It holds up pretty well. I think it's a great addition. And that's been a part of this, a part of the Dispatch's story is, the coming, and people talk about it differently. I quoted Peter Thiel saying, it's not such a big deal, it's going to be like the internet in the 90s, kind of. It changes things, but it doesn't turn everything upside down. Some people think it's going to turn everything upside down. I don't know. I mean, you hear, Huang talk, and he says all the early on it's just gonna be good. Later, we don't know, but early on it's going to be fantastic.
Could you give us a couple of examples of the process of being inspired and writing a dispatch? Does it occur to you when you're asleep? It can occur at any time of day or night. How do you select a theme? Or does the world select it for you?
You're asking me to reveal all my secrets. In fact, when I wake in the middle of the night or when I wake up is when a lot of things come.
So is it the dream or waking up or either?
Either.
Mm-hmm.
Either. But something will just suddenly come into focus.
That's great. Yeah.
After all the collection of disparate material, and then something will come into focus, and then I know where I'm going.
Can you think of an example, concrete example of dispatch number 74 or something?
No, probably not.
Well, that might be part of the deal. That you can't remember the thing that caused it.
Yeah, that gets lost after, in the process of writing, that gets left behind. But they've taken on, I hesitate to call it organic, but it is kind of an organic process that these things grow. They grow from a center. And I know when something, and I have to get rid of a lot. This has always been true, that I write a lot to get a little. So I have to write a tremendous amount and then carve it down into something more potent.
Would 10 pages be reduced to 1?
Yeah.
Is that the sort of ratio?
Well, it used to be, the ratio was more like 100 to 1.
No way.
I'm afraid so.
What you just mentioned, you said writing causes it to go away. I mean, to forget the inspiration is how I
forget
heard it.
when it came into focus, because I don't care anymore about
Is
about
that true? And why should that happen?
I don't know.
I'm just testing,
I don't know.
hoping.
I mean, does that happen to you?
I'm asking the questions. No, I don't think so. But it's obviously very important and even profound question how writing would affect that which inspired it. It's like the Ouroboros or something, you know, it's like eating yourself, if you see what I mean. Listen, why don't people in the audience start asking questions? Because we've reached a certain plateau, in my opinion.
I have a question, and it doesn't have to be a consistent one, but is it the word or the image that triggers what happens, or the desire to arrest this moment and a decision to make it indelible?
Yeah, well, that's a complicated process. I mean, my initial answer is that it's both, and it's the relation between the two that's most productive for me. But you know, I have obviously I'm writing these things for somebody to read, and so I have them in my. I'm the first reader, and it has to be. But you're all in there. I'm thinking if it's compelling to all of you, then it's working. But it's a strange projection. I mean, people who don't write say, "Well, you can't be thinking of the you can't be thinking of the reader." Well, of course, you're incorporating multitudes. You're imagining a reader into existence, and that's a.
But do you see a face? Do you see a person, real person?
No. It's just somebody reading, as I'm writing, somebody reading this. What are they doing? What do I want them to do? I mean, it's literally imagining something into existence, and it's a magical process.
It's I think a timely question here.
Which is thinking about what Livy is talking about in terms of Virilio and this notion of speed being the primary engine in the way people think and make decisions today, at least in societies like North American societies, United States or in Europe. But in your experience working with indigenous peoples, have you seen a similar transformation in terms of how information gets to them and how the consciousness and the politics of people living, for instance, in the jungles in Colombia or in Venezuela or in Brazil are understanding the modern world? Has it leaked in at that level?
Oh my God, yes.
How do you experience that?
The smallest village.
That people in small villages are
Oh
glued to
yeah.
their phones just like Manhattanites.
Just like we are, yeah. Even more so, maybe.
And how has it changed?
Oh, that's I don't know the
How
world.
about the politics of those places then?
Sorry?
Has the politics coarsened as well as the politics has coarsened here? Has the politics changed and become proto-fascist or open to that
No.
kind of manipulation?
No, I don't. I think that's too big a jump to assume. I mean, one of the topics that came over again and again in these pictures was, of course, Heil Hitler. I mean, how much are we watching the fast growth of fascism in this country? I know it's very easy to say that, and I know probably most of us are too timid, and oh, it's not really genocide, oh, it's not really fascism, that sort of thing. Let's be careful here. But it's almost overwhelming.
That's been the shocking thing to me, is how slow people are to recognize what's happening right in front of them.
We recognize it.
But when you see the Brazilian people turn against Bolsonaro, and when you see the Brazilian population turn against Bolsonaro and reject that kind of fascism there, is that predictive of something that could conceivably happen?
No. How great that is, yeah. The particularities of Brazilian life, I can't answer that. I mean, what we're searching for in that question is there a likelihood of fascism with the type of technology, media technology we have now? That's putting it very simply, oversimply. I'm just pausing. I don't know what to say. You're the one who studies this.
I'm continually surprised by the lack of response.
Response, what people call resistance?
Resistance.
I mean, opposition?
Outrage. It's there. I have found it, but...
David, in the back of the room, there's some questions.
Honestly, respectfully, I think the presentation you gave is actually dangerous in this category. Like, to call Trump a master image maker, one, I think, is false. Like, almost every image of him is terrible. Any president who gets assassinated with a row of professional photographers is going to leave with a powerful image for their side. And he is notably and publicly self-conscious because he looks so ridiculous in all of the photos taken of him, and the Times has reported on this extensively. To give him that power, in a way, I think is a huge part of the problem.
I'm not giving him that power. He has that power. I recognize it. I think you're dead wrong. And I think the only way to combat what's happening to us is to recognize its power and recognize how it's formed and what it's coming from, to be able to combat it. It doesn't do any good to imagine that he's simply a fool, simply a narcissist, simply an idiot.
Don't forget mob
That's
boss.
not going to
He's
get
also a
there.
mob boss.
It's just not going to get there.
Phil?
You say it's important to recognize its power. What is the it that they're talking about? Because I think for me, the kind of risk, and I thought this was a very powerful presentation, photo essay. I think for me, sometimes the risk with these sort of like political analyses of the economy and the image is that they often tend to devolve into one of two critiques. One is, the problem is that bad people are good at using images to manipulate ordinary people. The problem is the bad people, right? Or the other is, the problem is the free circulation of images itself is dangerous and needs to be constrained. The problem is Hito Cheryl's poor image itself is the problem. And I find both of those analyses poor or unsatisfying. So
What's the third way?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it's complicated. I think that looking at what the images are and how they're being used, the first question for me with any photographic image or technical image is who's using it for what purpose. That's the fundamental question. And recognizing the genius of the other side is not giving, I mean, again, I don't think that's giving them power. It's just recognizing what's happening.
In the back, oh, Kenzie?
Yeah, I actually have two questions. I feel as though you were alluding to it was a propaganda stunt at the first because you were questioning the velocity of the bullet. And I'm questioning that. Are you directly saying this is propaganda, knowing that that image was to come? So there's my first question. Second question is the accelerationists. Is the damage done?
In regard to the second question, I mean, I think it's an ongoing damage. I mean, it's happening every day. So no, it's not done. Some things, I mean, it's real. I think it's important to recognize what things are done and finished, and which are continuing. But there's a long way to go. We've gone down the track a long way, but there's still a long way to go. So, I'm sorry, the first part of it. Oh, yeah, you know, it's a danger to, it was remarkable to me when I tried to find information about crooks and about everything that happened. There's precious little. We know very little, actually. But that's not particular to Trump. We know very little about the Kennedy assassination for that. You know, I was just asking questions, and the business about ballistics really comes from, again, people that I know that are Trump supporters who talk about what an AR-15 is and does, and that that the whole thing about them, I mean, it's a little tiny, it's a small bullet. It's a .22 bullet, caliber bullet, but it's moving at such a great rate of speed, and the speed is what does the damage. So I was sort of trying to make a connection between that speed and these other larger movements that are happening. It's hard for me to believe that looking at that wound afterwards, that was made by one of those bullets. I think it was some kind of shrapnel. But what does that mean? I mean, you're right that the danger of propaganda is always there every time you make any statement about an event or a phenomenon. And it's good to be aware of it, because you want to ask real questions and not. So I recognize your critique. I went a little too far probably with that.
Claudia, did you answer?
Yeah, two things. I was thinking about Taussig and you know, his ideas about Taussig and his ideas about the technical image and sort of like extracting moments out of time and just like making statements. It's not really like, also to your point about journalism, it's not really like documenting what's happening, but really choosing a moment to represent a moment or even to produce something for the image at the end. And that we're living in this world of images that has been produced for the image or for the photography, at the same time as we experience the image, but we are perceiving the image as the new reality in this acceleration, in this process. And therefore we are live here in this moment, but we also are exposed to these devices and the media and the story that has been produced for us to consume in addition to the reality. That was the one idea or thought that I had, and the other.
You're talking about Flusser.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
also, and sort of like this idea of like being in two spaces, in the virtual or in this AI or produced digital realm at the same time as we are in reality. But we're sort of like leaning into these devices and choosing to just be absorbed in these narratives that are produced for these agendas, politics, machines. So it's a critique. So that's how I see it. It's not like Trump is, like, yes, he's using us in our addiction to these devices, like same as Hitler used the radio to do his propaganda, to produce his message, etc. So it's just like another medium, I don't know, many, many years later, but this is what we're plugged into right now, and this is how we get our information, rather than like being out in the world and experiencing it. And that also maybe to the point of like reducing the word count, and so not getting like all the information, we're getting it digested and produced for our consumption. So this is one thought I had, and then I had something else just now that I was thinking in terms of like revolution. It can be used like the Romanian Revolution, the television, for example, but that was kind of like a failed revolution. So it can be used for a revolutionary act or for like a propagandist demagogue or something. So I think it's a powerful tool. It could also be turned against Trump. And there was something about, there was something else, but I was thinking about Flusser all this time as you were talking, not just...
One of the things that I have always liked about Flusser is the way he gives motive and...
Can you say a little bit who Flusser is? I don't know if anyone...
Wilhelm Flusser was a great writer, theorist, and a lot of what he said about technical images, the nature of technical images, and public images, I've benefited from a great deal. I've read everything that he wrote. Brazilian, was in Brazil most of the time.
Not a lot of stuff has been translated.
A lot of things now. It took a while, but now that they've kind of caught up. Not everything, though. He was very prolific. And he also wrote a column for daily newspapers, and he wrote a lot of like quick things in the political stream. But one of the things I always loved about him was that he talked about the camera, the black box, as having motive and intentions of its own, and you kind of, I tried to teach Flusser once at Yale to photographers, and they were outraged because he thinks of photographers as just following the camera around. They're functionaries. They do what the camera wants them to do, and they didn't like that very much.
Yeah, well, he also says that you have to challenge the apparatus, and
Yeah.
you can use it to make your own images.
Yeah.
This is exactly...
You have to work against the camera
Yes.
to do that.
David, your presentation, which was actually quite powerful, and even though it had a little ray of light at the end, thinking that the Epstein affair is going to somehow shatter the MAGA base, I'm wondering if we can find some way of speaking about something in a more that might have a more positive sense. Here we are at the end of our last lecture of our summer series. What role can the artist play? What role can artists today play to fight this onslaught of fascism?
I actually, it's really great because I was thinking about the acceleration as well. It's like,
Right.
oh, why is Epstein not over tomorrow? Like, who's guaranteeing that at that pace and acceleration? But I was also thinking about the ear. Like, what a great opportunity to take these conspiracy theories and just like use them, and which I say, I mean, conspiracy theories about the ear is like, it kind of is, but it also is like, for me, it was like, really? I never even thought about it, right? So it is a great thing to extract like some of the details that, some of your ideas or thoughts, and just like accelerate those too.
Pretty much all my hope for the future lies in artists. I mean, I think that's, and all these articles just came out about there are more and more people applying to art schools, and one of the reasons they give is AI, that they're not going to be able to get a job. They might as well do something that they love. And
David, you and I share a love for George Gittos, the Australian peace activist and artist and filmmaker. But are there other artists out there that you believe are kind of pointing in a direction that's useful for us to be thinking about?
oh, many.
Who would you say is pointing, whose work is pointing us in a direction that's useful and maybe worth, diving into?
I don't know who to mention first.
I mean, Gittos is a witness, right? Gittos sees himself as a witness to the cruelty of war, and so we understand his role. But how about others who are helping us unpack or slow down, or unpack all of the conspiracies, or find other ways of undercutting the power that
Well, I was
is
just
so carefully described.
I was supposed to do something for Alfredo Jar recently, and he continues to find ways. He was trained as an architect,
Yeah.
and he really knows how to put things in space, and he's used particular technologies in revelatory ways, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But there are a lot of people, and I can't think of any of them now. I think the approach to this kind of onslaught I think that all the demonstrations that have happened, we were just at one recently, and I wrote about it afterwards a little bit, that in a way, to a lot of people they seem kind of silly, but I don't find them silly. They're celebratory. Everybody, has their signs and all of this stuff that goes way back and has a history to it. But I think it's useful. It's useful to get people together to do these things.
Definitely.
And there needs to be more of that. But
Yeah.
I'll try to end positively in the sense of you offering a model. And it's about the slowing down, right? And the thinking and the writing about the images, right? And what you did for me during that time was all the things that you think and then they pass through and you don't know about, and you bring them back and you weave them through and you allow us to think through it. The problem is, how do I keep from just leaving and not going back, right? And I don't want to go read your 77, because as much as I haven't been following, I've read your early ones. So I think that's the model that you're bringing up, right? As much, because it is both the image and the word at this point, but it's the slowing down and creating that space for it.
I appreciate that. Michael.
Yeah, I'm trying to be articulate. I do find a lot of hope in your dispatches, and I think the hope for me has something to do with not just the clarity or the insight or the position, but a kind of unscriptedness, a kind of way of looking for an approach to the material that's your own and unfamiliar, and not something that we're gonna necessarily find anyplace else. Because what politics is doing, certainly what the media does, whether it's Fox or MSNBC for me, they're profoundly conventionalized. And they fall into scripts immediately, and they depend for their fascination and power over people for the scripts that they fall into. And I feel like what you do, they're quite personal, they're understated, you really never hit anything on the head with a hammer. And there's a way of looking for something that's your own truth in relation to material that everyone deals with all the time, and then delivering something that is your own, that's unfamiliar, that's a different way of looking at being in the world that we're all struggling with all the time. And I find this unscriptedness, this commitment to seeing in a way that goes beyond scripts, really important. And I think for me, the hope that I get out of your own columns, and to me they're kinds of columns, has to do with that.
I appreciate that too.
Yes.
I was also going to say, I'm trying to make it articulate
A
too.
little louder, please.
Oh, I was also going to say, try to make it articulate too, and maybe end it off in a great note, or in a more hopeful note. When I think about a third way about thinking about propaganda, it a lot of the times is trying to feed on the fears of hope of people like who are in MAGA, who are, I find, oftentimes resource or existentially deprived. I see your point a little bit in the sense of when we kind of see this one image of hope thrown at us all the time of Trump winning and being a superstar, it feels a little disheartening. So my question is, if you have a specific iconography that gives you a lot of hope on the other side of what Trump has been shoving down our throats, if there's an image that really ignites to you the future.
Good question.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. It is a problem.
That image isn't there, right? Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Casey?
I'm just wondering, you said something about Trump sort of being the master image maker and having grown up, I think, making images of himself for public consumption, maybe relating to back to what you said. Can you speak to the fact that we, younger people all have grown up now doing that? With more tech, iPads, phones, etc., organizing themselves with some more awareness for public consumption.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Like, some of us have grown up now, as you said, Trump had a particular awareness about presenting himself for public consumption.
Yeah.
And I have grown up with that awareness as well. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about the way that might change, the way images work.
Yeah, I mean, that's, well, the truth is that I can't put myself in your position because my experience is very different from that. And I'm not, I taught for years and years and I'm not teaching now. It's one of the things I miss about hearing from young people about what they're, and I can forget too that you, as you say, you grew up in the middle of this. That's all you know, and it must look very different than, I got into politics 50 years ago, and there's been a lot of things changing, and I'm sure that the way I see Trump and the way I see the current condition is very different from yours because our experience is so different. But I think there are things that go across, that can cross that. And I'm always looking for ways that do go across it, that I don't know because you know things that I don't because I don't live in that environment the way you do.
Yes.
I guess I just wanted to like question the idea of like one centralized image and if there's like power in like the multitude of images and if there's a way, like I just don't know that I like it's helpful to like believe in like a singular image and to like look for an image to like represent like a like something that is so broad or like I think I like have this belief that like an image is always kind of like hiding the fact that like there is like power is not like centralized in the way that like we believe it to be, I guess. And I guess I wonder like with like why does it always have to be like one centralized image? Like can we figure out like how to deal with the multitude and like parse that out in a way that's not super like accelerationist, but more like
I think that's a fruitful connection to make between the singular image, the singular iconic image, and the concentration of power politically. And they are related, for sure. It's hard for me to imagine what it. I mean, this is an autocracy. It's an authoritarian form of government, and it affects us all. Does it affect every part of our lives? No. We still make choices, and we can still do things, and maybe looking at a multitude of images is one approach to do that. I'm not sure how you mean that, but I think it could lead to something.
Yeah.
I always thought, speaking to this multiplicity of images, that one of the things that was really effective about The Daily Show were those archivists and those editors that would put together these, small clips of actions or words, coming from, politicians and slice them next to each other, right? So we would get all of that back to back. And I kept thinking about that as I was watching your images too, that there is something really powerful about seeing an aggregate of behavior coming together, all at once to really fix our minds on that behavior or the rhetoric.
Mm-hmm. You mean the old Daily Show or the new Daily Show?
The old Daily Show.
Still pretty good. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, in my last email I mentioned this guy, Jesse Wells, to you. And so this is this character who, he's a folk singer, sort of like Woody Guthrie. I just happened to notice him on YouTube, but he's doing something kind of parallel to what you're doing in your dispatches, where he's kind of reporting the news in this very intelligent way on a very timely basis. So like maybe his speed is really similar to the dispatches. Maybe he's like less than a week behind the news, and he's delivering this message to a whole entirely different audience that the dispatches or the New York Times or Fox News is accessing, and it's like this message is like he's from Arkansas. And when you see him, he looks like he could probably be a MAGA person. And but then you listen to what he has to say. And so
what does a MAGA person look like?
Someone who didn't go to college and stayed locally, and is trying to make a living. And he seems like this person, and I know he's very attached to Arkansas and all this stuff. So I find optimism in finding this new channel of
That's a beautiful
political
thought.
activism.
Yeah. A new Woody Guthrie might be one of the artists who can.
A Woody Guthrie who understands the internet, knows how to use it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, and thank you guys.